Coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech, the FTC is pushing forward click to cancel. We'll talk about in detail what that means and why it's good for you. Twitter is making two big changes to the platform. AI is demanding more nuclear power. Longtime Twitch streamers finally clean up their act, and Concord may be coming back from the dead. All that and more coming up today on Eagle Eyes on Tech. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or who I am. Good everybody, this Eagle Eyes on Tech. I am Eagle Falcon. We have quite a bit to talk about, but first I want to catch up on one piece of news that actually we should have covered last week, but we just didn't have a story yet for it or the details of it. It kind of like happened in the middle of my prep last week. That is the admittedly pretty historic SpaceX catching of its own rocket. This is the first time in the history of space travel that, in fact, a rocket was recovered by just having it come back to the station rather than trying to recover it after it drops into the ocean. And that's honestly granted, I don't know a whole lot about, space travel and all that. It is still a relatively significant step forward as far as sustainability in space travel. And I give Elon Musk a lot of flack, and granted he deserves a lot of flack, especially with trying to go ahead and push out a pickup truck, trying to push it out as being super strong, super durable, and then built it on an aluminum frame. I can't get over that. I still can't. It's maddening. It is still absolutely maddening that was a real thing that was done. But I gotta give him credit. SpaceX really did do something actually incredible here, and so I gotta say good job. I think I even made an offhanded comment last week that SpaceX might be like the sole force holding up the entire Elon Musk corporate empire, and I kind of made that like offhanded, but the more you think about it, the more it seems correct. I know Elon fanboys and be like, yeah, you did that and the other thing. I just don't want to get into that argument. It's not even worth it. Meanwhile, though, in other news, we've now heard the first time a new buzzword for cell phones. You'll never guess what it is. Are you ready? Are you ready for the next big thing in phone technology that every single phone company and phone manufacturer is never going to shut up about for the next 5 years? Are you ready for it? No, it's not AI, but very good guess. No. It's very simple what it is. If you remember besides AI, every tech company's pushing AI. The next big thing for phones, 6G. Yep. The next generation of phone communication technology is being worked on, and they are saying that it could be 9,000 times faster than 5G with theoretical speeds of up to a terabit of information. Okay, all right. Before every single phone manufacturer just absolutely makes a horrendous mess, calm down. Just calm down for a moment, all right? Just calm down. Let's inject a little bit of reality into this. I know that's hard, all right? I know that is exceptionally hard, especially after they just went ahead and just never, ever shut up about 5G and how it's going to revolutionize everything. And then 5G turned out to be about twice the speed of 4G, maybe even 4 times the speed of 4G, but then way less reliable than 4G. And 5G, if you remember, that was supposed to be what? 100 times faster than 4G? Supposed to give us 500 gigabits or 500 megabits up to a gigabit. Why am I willing to bet that if I take my 5G phone right now, run a speed test off the Wi-Fi network, it's going to get about 30? this is the easiest prediction to make in the world. All right. Easiest prediction. 6G is not going to be that much faster. 6G is going to be a noticeable improvement. I hope they focus more on stability of the connection rather than the speed. Because one thing that 5G absolutely failed at was stability. My God, it sucked at stability. I could do truck streams on 4G. I have done truck streams on 4G. I literally just took my phone, mounted it in a delivery truck, and then during the 2-hour drive home from my last stop of the delivery all the way back, I'd go ahead and just stream the trip, have the whole phone, just have every single chat message come in text to speech so I didn't have to look at the phone, and just have a pleasant conversation the whole way back with not the best image quality, but still pretty watchable image quality until we got down to Lake Geneva, in which case it kind of crapped out. I couldn't do that with 5G. It would drop out all the time, constantly, on the regular. It's awful. So focus on that stability first. Because let me tell you, where I'm at, the instant I go over the hill, I get my signal back. On the other side, gone. No one cares about speeds if in the middle of a very fast data transfer, it dies halfway through. That should be the focus of 6G. But guess what? Guess what they're not going to do? That thing I just said. Because, of course, when they run the tests, they don't do it out in the open. They don't do it out in the real world. They don't go ahead, get out there, run their tests with an actual environment. They do it in a closed lab. And it's just like, oh, it's stable in our closed lab. Of course it was. You blocked out every other radio signal in existence. There's no trees to absorb anything. There's no freaking terrain or houses or anything that blocks anything. But I guarantee you, this is not the last that we heard of 6G. And I, for one, am already sick of it. And it's literally the first post, and I'm already sick of it. Here's something I'm not sick of, though. This is actually something that should have happened long, long ago. And I actually have a personal experience regarding this. The FTC announces a new rule that is going to be going into effect to make it easier for consumers. What is it called? What does it do? It's called click to cancel. For some subscriptions out there, it is very easy to subscribe and upgrade your subscription. But if you want to cancel it, it is exceedingly difficult. Like exceedingly so. Some of those actually say you have to go ahead, get in contact with their customer service, talk to a person to go ahead and cancel the service. This rule that will go into effect in 180 days, I wish it would just go into effect now, but whatever, requires it so that if a company creates an ability to apply to it for a subscription, there must be an ability to unsubscribe from the subscription that is equally as easy to follow. And I actually even have a story about this. It involves a wonderful little company called TeamViewer. Oh, TeamViewer. Someone in chat asked, does this include gyms? I believe so, yes. It doesn't specifically say it, but I don't know why it would exclude gyms. But I had one from TeamViewer. All right. Very easy to set up, and I used TeamViewer to access my virtual machines. We switched to a cheaper solution. We use AnyDesk now instead of TeamViewer. We sent an email to TeamViewer saying that we were canceling. They charged us not only the amount we were supposed to be charged, but upcharged us because their software detected that, in fact, their software was running on a server and charged us $500. And then when I went ahead and said, you can't do that, they said, prove us wrong. The kind of stupid nonsense that companies do for this sort of stuff is insane. And I'm not going to lie, the nonsense of saying that you have to go ahead and go through customer service when you're automatically taking my money, how is that to anyone's benefit? So, not gonna lie, this is a rare win. I'm very much in favor of this. Huzzah, huzzah. I just want to know where the heck was all this consumer friendly stuff years ago. Seriously, what took you so long? Someone in chat says that it's worth noting that a certain gym, not the actual name taking the announcement of this ruling. I don't think there's like any specific kind of business mentioned in this. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're just saying, like, if there's a subscription, there must be. I mean, here's the important thing. They actually went ahead and have a little thing here. Under the FCC's amended negative option rule, important information must be truthful, clear, and easy to find. People have to know what they're agreeing to before they signed up. Sellers have to be able to show people knew what they agreed to before signing up. There always has to be a way to cancel that's as quick and easy as it was to sign up. Sign up online, click to cancel, sign up in person, cancel online or over the phone. Violators can be liable for redress and civil penalties. Rule takes effect 100 days after publication in the Federal Registry. That is their own documentation there, or their own little fact sheet they went ahead and made. Again, good. I'm a little annoyed, though, that it took them this long to go ahead and push this forward. Meanwhile, though, the Google antitrust case has just had the brakes put on it. The changes that are going to be happening to Google that were going to be announced in November are now on hold. The original judge has now granted a temporary administrative stay in regards to the changes that were going to go in, they're no longer going to have to make a series of Play Store changes by November 1st in response to losing the Epic lawsuit after the original judge granted a temporary stage. As The Verge reports, this pause is meant to allow a higher court to grant Google a request for a longer stay that should be in place until the appeals play out, which could last a few years. Did I just get bamboozled? I did get bamboozled. This is in regards to the Google Play Store monopoly. This has nothing to do with the FCC or the FTC case against Google in regards to their actual monopoly status. That is still going forward as planned. This is just in regards to the Google Play Store in regards to the Epic lawsuit. This is what I get for having to quickly rush through my prep after all the other stuff that happened earlier in this week. Oh man. So yeah, if you are hoping for big changes to come through soon, because that deadline actually is approaching, I completely forgot about it. That will not be happening as of yet, because they're going to appeal it. Shocker. Quick, raise your hands if you're shocked by this revelation. Now, raise your hand if you're shocked by this revelation. Google is warning that uBlock Origin and other extensions may be disabled soon, all because of the depreciation of Manifest v2 extension specification. So ad blockers like uBlock Origin are going to be going away, and Google cares so much about uBlock Origin having to go away and never be seen again. I'm of course being sarcastic. Google desperately wants uBlock Origin to just F off. Now, a lot of people are reporting this as malicious behavior spurred all of a sudden by Google trying to go ahead and flex their market dominance. Well, this isn't sudden. This has been planned for years. It's just that the deadline is quickly approaching. And before you think that it means, oh no, there's going to be no more ad block on the internet. No, there's other ad blockers out there already. And unless Google goes ahead and actually actively denies uBlock Origin a reposting under the new Manifest v3 specification, then it's going to work still. So before you panic about there being no uBlock Origin, it's not the case. Relax. Just relax. It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine. That being said, we're going to have to see if, in fact, uBlock Origin is able to get a new version up that does comply with the rules, or if they just say, yeah, we're out. It would not surprise me at all if Google would deny a new version of uBlock Origin that actually does comply with Manifest v3. It really, really wouldn't. And it would reinforce the whole, wow, Google might be a monopoly. No. Speaking of Google being a monopoly, there is a new option on YouTube. I actually don't know how this fits in. It fit into my head. Now it doesn't. YouTube is pushing out a new premium option. Premium Lite is coming back from the dead. It is going to be available for YouTube. Of course, it's YouTube Premium Lite. And this is going to go ahead and offer ad-free viewing experience, being able to play music offline and in the background with a limited ad experience. Yay. Now, here's the unfortunate thing. It sounds like at this time, it is only going to be available in the EU. That is what it's sounding like at this time. We'll have to see when the options actually launch. There is a note saying that there's going to be a different version of Premium Lite for people in Australia, Germany, and Thailand. I imagine their versions will be a little different to make sure they're complying with consumer protection laws in Australia, Germany, and Thailand. What are those differences? We don't know at this time. However, there's another growing concern, and that is the death of x86. x86, if you don't know what x86 is, that is the processor that your laptop or desktop most likely runs on, unless you run a Mac, in which case you run on unicorn dust, hopes and prayers, and everything is fine while it's being disappointing. I swear that is the two Mac flavors. It is either working so well it's magical, or working so horrendously slow that it makes you want to hurl the laptop as a frisbee. But most likely your computer is running on x86, and because of the threat of ARM processors, x86 looks like it will be going the way of the dinosaur in the near future. However, Intel and AMD are in fact teaming up with a number of other tech companies to create the new x86 advisory group. Its sole purpose is to try and continue the support of x86 moving forward. Now, let's be perfectly honest here, all right? x86 has no fear of being eliminated anytime soon. Right now, Apple's going to Apple. It almost doesn't matter what Apple does with their Apple Silicon. They're just going to do whatever they want. But the Snapdragon processors made a very impressive first impression well, I shouldn't say first impression, a very good impression for their first real attempt at breaking into the PC marketplace. There were other attempts before, but they were... The current attempt is very good. Like, impressively good. And the big thing they're good at is performance per watt. It is the big thing that x86 suffers at. Is the big Achilles heel. Performance, x86 has it for days. High-end performance, x86 kills it. Power efficiency, ooh. It is impressive how long Snapdragon laptops can go without charging. Days, even. It's impressive. I know I keep saying that, but it actually is really impressive. So to see this x86 ecosystem advisory group develop, I do hope they want to look at where they're weak, which is, of course, in this performance per watt area. Because if they can master that, it honestly would be the best for everyone, because it means no having to worry about migrating everything you have over to ARM. You have none of that to worry about. You don't have to worry about down the road just being, oh, I gotta hold this out. Oh, my thing's not going to work over there. Oh, I got to rely on emulation, which is terrible, etc., etc., etc. If this pressure from ARM can actually push the processors we use today to be just as efficient, I'm not going to lie. That is a massive win, win, win. But all we can do is wait and see how this goes through. Although, honestly, Intel and AMD teaming up just in general to go ahead and accomplish something is very impressive in an odd sort of way. Because I would not have called this. Not in a million years. We're going to take our first break here. When we come back... Actually, no, I have one more story I want to talk about. One more... I lied. There is actually some other information that is relevant in this whole thing involving x86 versus Snapdragon and ARM in general. And that is the fact that Qualcomm has actually canceled the dev kit. The dev kit for Windows, and the dev kit has been canceled and has refunded all orders. The statement they sent is as follows. Dear valued customer, please see this important message from Qualcomm. At Qualcomm, we are dedicated to pioneering leading technology and delivering premium experiences of our valued customers. The launch of 30-plus Snapdragon X Series powered PCs is a testament of our ability of delivering leading technology and the PC industry's desire to move to our next generation technology. However, the developer kit product has comprehensively not met our usual standards of excellence, so we are reaching out to tell you that unfortunately we have made the decision to pause this production and the support of it indefinitely. Working with the developer community is a priority for Qualcomm. If you want to learn more about Windows on Snapdragon, please engage with us on Discord. Let me interject. They have a Discord. Oh god, I do not want to see what the Qualcomm Discord looks like. Oh god. That just sounds like a nightmare. The letter continues. Please engage with us on Discord or head to our developer portal on Qualcomm.com. If you're ready to build your next-gen AI PC application, visit Qualcomm Cloud Device QDC today. Qualcomm has authorized a refund for any charges that have been made by Arrow. Based upon the above, we are working to provide a full refund for any changes to your account for your purchase. You should receive this credit fund within 10 business days. It is not necessary for you to return any materials if received. Unfortunately, any outstanding orders will be canceled. Thank you for your understanding. That is a letter sent out to developers that ordered the dev kit. So what does this mean? Does this mean that this is a massive snag for pushing ARM for Windows forward? Is this a huge step back? I'll just tell you what it means. It's very simple. They didn't get this thing out fast enough. That's all it is. You can go and order a Snapdragon powered laptop now. It's not hard. It's not hard to do so at all. So the purpose of a dev kit to go ahead and get your application working on Windows running on ARM, what's the point if they're struggling to make the dev kit and the product's out? Imagine you're a developer for the PS4 and like the dev kit for the PS4 didn't start shipping out until after the PS4 already shipped. What's the point? Just build the thing on the PS4. That's actually a terrible example because there actually is reasons you want to go on a dev kit for a game console more than on the actual console itself. But that's not the case here. It's the PC. So yeah, I don't think this is any sort of sign of weakness for those who are kind of rooting against ARM, so you don't have to go ahead and learn a whole new thing and get new this, that, and the other things and embrace freaking recall for Windows and all that nonsense. That's not what's happening here. Don't get your hopes up. This to me comes off as a case of they didn't build enough of these fast enough and now it's stupid to make more. We're going to take our first break here. When we come back, let's talk about Twitter and why you need to dump Twitter for Blue Sky as soon as possible. I mean, not really, but that's what everyone's on Twitter is trying to say. Again. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. Yep, it's that time of year again. Everyone's favorite time of year. The time of year where people go ahead and just say, you know what? This new update that Twitter's putting out is so bad, I'm leaving. I'm going to Blue Sky. Because it's that bad. What is this update, you might ask? Well, Twitter is changing the way block works. They're making it so that, well, if you block someone, they can still see your posts, but just can't interact with them at all. And this is the change that is making people say that Twitter is now an unusable platform. This is the worst change to ever blight the planet, and they're going to leave for another platform because of it. All right. I'm going to go ahead and say what no one else is willing to say, but it needs to be said. If you agree with this exact statement I just said, you clearly don't realize how things work on Twitter in the first place. Because if there really is someone that you really don't want to see your stuff, you know what they're going to do in order to see your stuff again? They're going to make a new account and then just see your stuff anyway. This change that everyone is saying is the worst thing to happen to Twitter and they're going to leave because of it are actually just, it might possibly be the dumbest thing possible. All right. That is people going ahead and saying that's the thing. That's the problem. I'm ignoring what chat's saying right now specifically because I'm making a point here first. This being the reason you're switching to a different platform is stupid. And a lot of people are using this as the reason they're leaving the platform. The real reason, if you're going to leave the platform, is the one that the chat is bringing up. That is this one, the change in the user policy that is getting a lot less attention, that actually makes it so that all content on Twitter can now be used to train AI. This can be a good reason to leave Twitter. And this I would fault no one for leaving for. However, hear me out. You know what this is? This is incentive to go ahead and be the worst kind of person on Twitter. Like, Twitter already is not a great place to post content. It really isn't. It's good to give like little updates to your small little group of fans, that sort of thing. But like, if you're hoping for like new engagement, Twitter is not the place. Because Twitter's the exact same, is the exact sort of place you're going to go and say, you know, I think ham and peppers is great on pizza. And you are going to get all the posts going, how dare you hate Italy? What? That is the kind of place Twitter is. So please, go ahead. I encourage it. Train AI on Twitter. You know what it's going to end up doing? It's going to create a super AI that hates life. All of the joking and memeing that we go ahead and talk about how AI is going to end the world for all humanity, this is the AI that's going to do it. The one trained on the actual unreasonable spite of Twitter. This is the one to do it. But at the same time, it's led by Musk, so it's going to be really, really bad at being a hateful piece of garbage, which is, for the most part, what you're going to find on Twitter. You want my really hot take about Twitter? Here's a hot take that I know a lot of artists specifically are going to hate this take. The worst thing that happened to Twitter was the push to have smaller new accounts show up in your timeline. Because before that, you could go ahead and send out mutes, dislikes for the little odd pop-ups here and there that show up that are not to your liking. Now it's impossible. You can't keep up. It is impossible to get a Twitter timeline to be anywhere close to remotely respectable. I am actually legitimately afraid now, where I wasn't before. Like before, I'd be fine showing my Twitter feed on stream. Now, well, especially right now, half my posts are going to be forced political ads because it's that season. Then there's about a 50-50 shot of being interesting gaming news, interesting Twitch content, interesting YouTube content, or just straight up porn. or just straight up someone hating on someone else for something really, really stupid. So getting back to my point though, if really the whole block thing is why you think Twitter is an unusable platform, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. Because that's the thing that's getting the most attention. And that's the thing I can safely ignore. That is nothing compared to Twitter's policy change saying that all content on the platform that, by the way, keep in mind, the whole reason that Twitter went ahead and wrecked their entire API ecosystem was to prevent other AIs from harvesting data on Twitter to train AI and to curb the amount of bots. Now Twitter's just doing it for themselves. They didn't care about the fact your data is being harvested by foreign bots. They just wanted to be the one to use it. It's irrefutable now. It's been the case. Always has been the case. Now it's written in plain English instead of being something that you had to connect dots for. That is the reason to leave Twitter, not the fact that someone I block can see my stuff. They could do that before. It doesn't matter. And honestly, if there's stuff you're posting on a public forum like Twitter, not even a public forum, a public, what would you even call Twitter? A public billboard like Twitter? And you only wanted certain people to see it? Twitter was not the place for it in the first place. I'm just telling you that right now. Of all the changes, that might be the tamest one that Twitter ever pushed out that was controversial. By the way, Adobe's fruits have now come to bear, or something like that. Remember how Adobe went ahead and said that all content made with Adobe Creative Suite can be used to will be used to train their AI? Those fruits are here to harvest. Adobe has unveiled their AI video generator, which has been trained on licensed content they got from you because you went ahead and signed a license for it by using Adobe Creative Suite. So before you go ahead and say, oh, it's trained on licensed content, that's good for the creator. No, it's not. It's not. Stop telling yourself nonsense like that to make yourself feel better about supporting Adobe. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to brainwash you or like anything like that, but you should be associating this word Adobe with piece of garbage creative company that hates their customers and hates you. Anyone who creates stuff on Adobe, you are paying Adobe so that you can go ahead and use their software they refuse to innovate on, and then go ahead and help them generate more stuff with AI to basically make your job obsolete. That should be the primary focus with Adobe. And lo and behold, their text-to-video tool is now available to use. This is specifically the Firefly video model. I cannot wait to see Firefly being used to create all kinds of worthless junk for YouTube. That's just the world we live in now, isn't it? That's okay, because there's other places that are sacred from AI. As we all know, there's plenty of creative outlets out there in which we don't have to worry about AI infecting. I mean, look at video games. Video games are so complicated, you need a large team to go ahead and develop it. There's no way generative AI can be used to take out the jobs of video game makers. It's right next to me, isn't it? Yeah. The startup known as Tails wants to go ahead and use generative AI to let you build your own video game based on their large world model called Saya, where it's going to go ahead and generate large chunks of the video game based on text prompts. I cannot wait to see what kind of fresh, hot garbage comes out of this. Aren't you excited? Just think of all the amazing things that's going to come out of video gaming. It's going to be great. It's not going to be a whole lot of slop at all. Oh, no. No, you have nothing to worry about. It's going to be the highest quality garbage that is going to be created from barely English. That just pump out and slap on the App Store and get ad revenue for. I don't think this is going to be a big deal for consoles, for the PC market, or anything like that. All right. I think this is going to be a nightmare for the mobile games market. And the mobile games market is already awful. It is already filled with shovelware that it's not even funny. Now multiply that by 10. It's going to happen. It's going to be awful. And no one's going to be happy with it. This is... It's not going to be pretty. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But of course, the question comes, since everything's going to be AI, doesn't that mean we're going to need more AI servers? Doesn't that mean we're going to need bigger and bigger data centers? How are you going to power all that? Well, guess what? Remember how Microsoft wanted to go ahead and fire up the decommissioned reactor on 3 Mile Island? The one that actually worked, not the one that melted down? Well, Amazon and Google both are saying, you know what? That old nuclear thing is a good idea. So we're going to get more AI data farms powered by nuclear power. I swear this was a movie plot somewhere. Doesn't this just like sound like some kind of movie plot? Like, it's not just me, right? Like, the AIs get bigger, they get nuclear power to go ahead and power their massive computer brains. Like, this just sounds like the first act of like a modern remake of Terminator. I'm not the only one thinking that, right? You think we should pitch this idea to Hollywood? But we want to go ahead and call it something other than Terminator. Well, while we think about how we're going to go ahead and make a cool $50 at Hollywood for a movie that probably would do I don't know, how well would a movie like that do in the movie theaters? What's the competition? Snow White and the Seven Wise? Is there any actual like good movies lately? Meanwhile, though, let's come back a little closer to home here. Microsoft has rolled out the next update for Windows 11, the 24H2 update. And apparently, if you have a Western Digital SSD, your computer just boot loops. Why did we discontinue Windows 10 again? Was there a reason we did that? Was Windows 11 really worth this? Every time it seems they push out a big update, Windows 11 just seems to have some sort of critical bug. Something that just makes you regret updating again and again and again and again. Man, just sitting on Windows 10 with my machine that refuses to update to Windows 11, you know, might not be the worst idea in the world. This is all we can do. Just shake my head. Just shake my head. And just find new ways to go ahead and disappoint everyone. I'll tell you what's not disappointing though. Steam. Steam right now has their Next Fest going on. This is something that we've talked about before on occasion. It's an interesting little thing that goes on. What Next Fest is Steam goes ahead and puts out a bunch of demos for various titles out there. I think it's mostly indie developers, but there's a decent amount of big ones that are out there. You can download the demos for free, try out the games, and it's a way to go ahead and give that kind of E3 experience, but give it to everyone rather than just going on a massive show floor, get the next flavor of COVID or super flu or whatever, and get overstimulated by everyone around there. You can just go ahead and try out the latest downloads at your own pace. Available right now on Steam. I highly recommend giving it a shot. There's a few here that GameSpot is pointing out, but I'll be perfectly honest. It's GameSpot. Do you really want to go ahead and do that? I would just recommend going in, and if you got time, check it out yourself. Might find some stuff you'd be very interested in. In other Steam news, they're also going ahead and right up front telling you that yes, you are in fact buying a license, not the actual game. This, of course, is something that is most likely being forced on Steam thanks to California, which, not too surprising given everything we know. Honestly, it's kind of whatever. Actually, we're gonna have to take a break right here. When we come back, we'll talk more about this, as well as some other gaming news, as well as one of the biggest Twitch streamers clean up their act. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Welcome back, Eagle Eyes on Tech. I'm Eagle Falcon. We got interrupted a little bit here in the studio in the middle of talking about the fact that Steam is now telling everyone that, in fact, you are not buying a game, you are buying a license to a game. The speculation is that it is, of course, about a California law that is going into effect, and here's my theory on this. I think it has... Obviously, the California law, I think, does have something to do with it. I think it's also just preemptively getting ahead of the fact that other countries in the EU are also going to start requiring this. This is clearly the next big push after Ubisoft went ahead and just pulled the rug out with, what was it called? Rust? No, I don't think it was Rust. What was the name of the game? I'm now blanking out. But like whatever the racing game was, that was a live service game, they just decided to just axe. And like the decently sized community that actually wanted it is now just like SOL. They're all looking at this now and just going, everything's now being looked at. And while Ubisoft is struggling to figure out, how they move forward in life, well, all this is going on now too. I also just realized now doing my prep, I completely forgot to include the new iPad. I should have had that earlier. Whoops. We'll have to go ahead and just add it on the fly. Now, while Steam is going ahead and making sure everyone knows that you're not actually owning your game, you're owning a license to play the game, other people, such as Sean Layden, who was a former Sony exec, is saying that AA games are gone and it's a threat on the ecosystem going forward. What do they mean by this? Right now, we kind of just think of games as one of two categories. It is either A, the peak of development and the highest end of production, AAA games, or it's an indie game. There really is like very little in between. Unless you're on mobile, then there's just garbage, which, it is what it is. So what do you do in that regard? What do you do? Well, we used to have smaller games. Game studios would go ahead and put out less of a game. I mean, we just actually had one from Square Enix. They put out the new Mana game that I'm blanking the name on right now. But then got a whole lot of headlines when the studio that made it was then shut down by their parent company, and Square's just left going, what the heck, man? What was the most recent Mana game? I am now drawing a blank on it. Visions of Mana. There it is. That was figuratively killing me. Yeah, Visions of Mana. That I would consider like a AA game, where it's not like the highest end quality they could possibly put out, but it was a decent quality and was, a lower budget game, but still was just a great time without being, some sort of massive production. And I gotta agree with this guy. I think you do need video game developers to go ahead and say, we don't have to make sure that every game is bigger and better than the previous one. You end up making mistakes when you do that. You end up going ahead and stumbling over yourself. You end up kind of pushing out the next Assassin's Creed, the next big game from Ubisoft, making some changes and then just saying, yeah, whatever, we need to push this thing out. And then you end up with promotional material that is offensive to an entire culture for the sake of checking checkboxes or just rushing it out and having huge quality issues. You end up with frickin' Pokemon Scarlet, a game that was pushed out, had amazing concepts and could have been great, but because they had to push it out so quickly, the game was an unplayable mess most of the time. only be kind of patched into what it should have launched as in the first place down the road. This is a big change that they need to go ahead and realize you can't just rely on either just being the best of the best or nothing. It's okay to put out a lesser game, something that's not as big, not as grand, but still just fine and comfy, and is just, not as hard on the developers, gives everyone a break at the own company while still paying the bills. Making AA games or single A games is fine. We just don't see that. All we see is either blockbuster AAA games that grab everyone by the throat and shake them and say, "Give me your money," or you get live service games. That's it. And that's not sustainable. I really do hope that not just developers, but studios listen to this guy, because this is what's going to make everything more sustainable. Speaking of sustainable, what's important when talking about sustainability is, of course, recycling. And apparently, Firewalk Studios is recycling. Concord might be making a comeback out of nowhere, apparently. There have been updates to the game on Steam long after the game has been terminated. Concord, if you don't know, was supposed to be a Overwatch clone that was supposed to be Sony's big, massive sort of live service hero shooter game to try and go ahead and go up against Overwatch 2, go up against Valorant, and whatever the heck Steam is doing. I still don't know what the heck's going on over there. They kind of just seem drunk. But this game lasted 10 days after its launch, had a population so low that Sony just said, pull the plug. And the developers themselves were interesting, because the game clearly had problems. There were definitely design problems with the game. The structure of the gameplay was problematic. And clearly no one said, this isn't a good idea, we should try something else during the development cycle. And the developers on Twitter really lashed out against the player base in a very Twitter way, to say the least. But the game was killed, at least so we thought. There have been updates, multiple in fact, that have been going out steadily. In fact, there was an update 11 days ago. Why? We don't know. Everyone is quiet at this time, but it's kind of strange that the game is dead. Refunds have been given out. You can't play Concord right now at all. There's no server to connect to, but the game files on Steam are being patched. Are we perhaps seeing Concord resurface? Maybe? It seems, however, unlikely. And that would kind of be where my first assumption would be. But hey, maybe instead you'd rather just go ahead and embrace another thing that you thought was dead. Cloud gaming! Xbox Cloud Gaming is now going to let you stream your own games next month. So not only can you stream games that are in the Xbox game libraries, but games you already own that are loaded on your Xbox, you can go ahead and stream from your Xbox. Very similar to what you can do on Steam. Wait a minute. Yeah, this one, cool, I guess. I'm personally not really a here's where I stand on this, all right? I find video game streaming interesting on a technological aspect, all right? It is something fun to experiment with on your own computers at home. To go ahead and say that all the compute should be done on a server way out yonder, and that I should go ahead and have all that do the compute with my whatever 50 down 1 up bandwidth connection is not that appealing to me, not gonna lie. And before you go, well, I have fiber and this is fine, or I have 5G. If you have fiber, good for you. All for it. Let me know how well that works for you when fiber fails to live up to the actual bandwidth you were promised because of heavy traffic in the area. And as far as your 5G, you have no idea how much that's going to suffer when you get those dips. Because 5G is not a very stable connection. You get bursts of great speed and then all of a sudden dip. It just dips down. Yeah, gigabit symmetrical fiber is definitely the way to go. I would definitely have it here in my studio if I could, but it's not available in my area. If it is in yours, fantastic. But you know what I've noticed when it comes to high-end communications? Things fall short. That is just how it goes. So good luck with that, Xbox. It's going to be very interesting how that ends up going. All right, I forgot to go ahead and include this, so let's just go ahead and talk about it now. There's a new iPad mini. I did do a breaking news episode in regards to this, and there was something else I talked about. I can't remember what it was. Regardless, Apple's introduced a new iPad mini, and really the only thing to really note here is the fact there's a new A17 Pro SoC in it, and that's basically it. I think there might be like a little bit of a screen buff with it and better support for newer Apple styluses, but it's just kind of a step up. And now it's made for Apple Intelligence, a software patch that is still not available for Apple devices. I cannot wait for Apple Intelligence to launch and have it just be a massive disappointment to the masses, like every other freaking Apple announcement or every other AI launch that ever existed. Sorry, I'm gonna move some stuff around because I'm kind of just moving things on the fly. Another thing I actually want to talk about, I talked about a Twitch streamer that is going ahead and actually clean up their act. I am talking, of course, if you have been paying attention in the tech space, well, or not the tech space, the Twitch space, you would know that a new face, or rather an old face, has gone ahead and joined the board of, I can't believe they just said that, Twitch streamer Asmongold, who was infamous for playing World of Warcraft poorly, but played so much of it that everyone assumed he was good at it, but has recently just been an armchair commentator and just having a mix of based takes and bad takes. And then, like a dingus, he went ahead and broke one of the golden rules of Twitch, or rather just live streaming in general. There's two. Do not talk about politics. Do not talk about religion. It never goes well. And before you go ahead and say, oh, what about Assange? It doesn't go well. He's terrible. Just the worst kind of person. I don't know how he still has an audience, other than by having terrible people. And so, lo and behold, he has made comments that I cannot repeat on this platform because it most likely will violate some form of toss on one of the this podcast. You don't understand. This podcast is redistributed over a lot of platforms. We record on Twitch. It is posted on YouTube because that is now Google Podcasts, apparently. It is posted on Apple Podcasts. It is posted on Spotify. It is posted on iHeartRadio. It is posted on Podbean. It is posted on Spreaker. It is you name a podcast platform, we are most likely there. The comments that were said by Asmongold, I don't know whose terms of service they would break, but I am 90% certain they would break someone's terms of service. Needless to say, though, I disagree with them. A lot of people disagree with them. Now, you might be thinking, whatever, the guy with the foulest mouth went ahead and said something dumb on Twitch. Oh, why is that news? Here's the news story about it. The man who never apologizes apologized. Here's the other thing that's actually noteworthy of this. He apologized before the companies he works with said anything. Normally how this works is dumb guy says dumb thing. Companies that work with dumb guy disassociate with dumb guy. Dumb guy then goes out, publicly says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have never said that." Dumb guy now has no sponsors, but then goes to keep on saying dumb things. That is the order of operations of how this all goes down. Here is the order of how this is actually going down. In this case, dumb guy goes out and puts out a very short apology. That's step one. Dumb guy then goes and makes a 30-minute, actually well thought out apology video that, I'm not going to lie, I have seen plenty of apology videos. This might be the first one in a long time that felt like there was some actual genuine regret during the apology. And it's been a long time since we've seen that. Long time. Asmongold has willingly stepped down from OTK, the streamer network that he founded. OTK then, of course, put out a statement saying that a few days ago, Asmongold made comments that, in his own words, were disgusting and abhorrent. OTK denounces all forms of discrimination, violence, and any sort of behavior that cannot be tolerated. Yesterday evening, we spoke with Asmongold, or Zach, that's his real name. I just kept going. Regardless, I digress. He'll be stepping away from his roles at OTK and our affiliation companies, Starforge, Mythic, and Mad Mushroom. All right, and the apology goes on. You get the idea. Starforge Systems also said that they spoke with them. They mutually agreed to part ways. For a guy in the Twitch space as big as him, this might be the most peaceful falling out that we've seen in quite some time. And now to get the biggest surprise is during his apology video, he even said, "I need to step back from streaming. I need to go ahead and reflect on the way I'm doing things and just everything that he's doing. He's to look back and affect everything." And there's one thing I always say. Actions always speak louder than words. Words are the cheapest thing you can put out there. Actions are what matters. This probably means nothing to anyone who doesn't know anything about Asmongold. But he's shown evidence that he's actually cleaning up his place. That might be the biggest shock of all. And you know what? Like I said, what he said, the comments he made, I can't say them here. And I don't want to, because I 100% don't agree with them. Ever. But he acknowledges that he's wrong. And he is in fact taking steps to improve himself. And you know what? It's probably the most anyone can ask for, you know? So you know what? Good on you. I'm sorry, what does Twitter description say? Did I see that right? Yes, I did see that right. Mr. Professional Neckbeard. I did not think he would actually put that in as his actual Twitter profile. Someone in chat said, sitting there doing React content off his subreddit just spiraled really awfully. Yeah, it really did. It kept getting the views, but I was even just talking. So before I even came to podcast here today, first day that we're back watching sports ball with my dad. He was on a big RVing trip for like 3 weeks. All right, we were talking about the various this, that's the other thing. And then, of course, inevitably it devolved into, did you see that one political story? And I just said straight up, if you've ever seen my newsfeed and Twitter timeline and everything I use to go ahead and gather stories for the podcast I do here, you'd never want to talk about politics again. I don't know how anyone would. It's awful. I'm so sick of it. Thank God October is almost done, and I can go back to having a Twitter timeline that is mostly sane again, less about trying to spin the smallest thing into the biggest problem ever, and instead just people complaining about how the election went. Instead, let's actually follow up about the Pokemon hack. We talked about this a bit last week when it leaked out. I want to talk about some stories. that were in the leak. Whew. Yeah, in the Pokemon leak, not only was there just straight up source code names, documentation, and files all talking about employees, past Pokemon games, future Pokemon games, internal documents that should have never seen the light of day, and have all been basically confirmed because because Nintendo went ahead and tried to DMCA claim anyone talking about them that had directly shown the documents. There were some we'll call them stories that came off as like some of the darkest folklore you've ever heard. Like if you've ever heard of like Japanese folklore tales, it's on that vibe, but definitely ones you wouldn't tell your kids. I mean, if you went on Twitter and saw that Typhlosion was trending and then looked into why it was trending, you'd know exactly what the stories were. Apparently all written by one person. So I have to wonder something about these stories. I'm not saying this is the case, but I have to wonder, with how little people like the Pokemon Company right now, and Nintendo for that fact, for the suing of Pal World for what appears to be a patent. We don't know this for sure yet, but what appears to be a patent that was made after the launch of Pal World. Part of me still wonders if these were stories planted in the leak to try and make Nintendo look bad. Like, things don't add up with this leak. Like, we know that we know that the leaks were genuine because Nintendo tried to take them down, but we don't know how much of it was. And it doesn't seem like, these kind of stories, like, you don't understand. Like, you know how earlier I said I couldn't talk about what Asmongold said because it would break someone's terms of service? These stories would definitely break everyone's terms of service. Like, everyone's. Like, there's no, would that be considered would that fall under the, it's just my opinion clause that, like, things like Spotify have or anything like that? No. This would not be allowed. Period. Because of the subject matter. It is a no-go. Like, at all. I can't say why. I'm trying to think how I can phrase this in a way that tells you everything you need to know without breaking anything. Like, that has been my challenge all week after hearing the stories myself. Like, they contain dark adult themes, including a word that rhymes with grape. I hope this spells it out as much as I can. Like, it is the fact that these kind of stories exist on a company server as big as Game Freak. It is unbelievable. And like I've talked with this, like, it definitely sounds like a story that definitely just sounds like an old Japanese yokai story from way back yonder, or some kind of folk tale, and all you do is just replace like like whatever abhorrent creature or what was the word, the tanuki or whatever, with a Typhlosion and those sort of things. Like, it definitely sounds like it. It definitely sounds like a quick swap. But at the same time, if it actually is just that, a quick swap, wouldn't that also mean that it'd be very easy for someone to go ahead, quickly whip up that story, and just slip it into the leak file before pushing it out? Again, I have no proof of this. I don't. But I'm having a very hard time believing 100% that, in fact, oh yeah, totally, Game Freak just had the spiciest, darkest Pokemon stories hidden within. They never shared with anyone, but it was totally on their server. Totally. Something doesn't smell right. And don't be surprised when we find out down the road that, in fact, something didn't smell right. In the meantime, though, yeah, there's some pretty messed up stories on the internet right now. Just slightly more than normal. I need a distraction. How do I get a distraction? There is a really expensive robot arm that will make you food. A new cafe has a robot arm that will go ahead and do most of the cooking for you. Just straight up. It'll just go ahead. Once everything's all set up, it can go ahead, just do all the work for you. And, you know, it's the future. This is how they're going to get all those cappuccino prices down after they pay off the $105,000 robot arm. Yeah, it's that's a pretty high price, I'm not going to lie. Even from the aspect of like a business, like $105,000 for a robot arm that's going to go ahead and do like some basic cooking for a cafe. That's going to be really hard to justify that replacing, like, say, a cook. Because keep in mind, like, before you go ahead and say, no, you don't understand. You're not thinking big. Because $105,000 and you don't have to pay a chef forever. You know robots break down, right? You know equipment breaks down, right? There's still going to be an upkeep to the robot. There's still going to be an upkeep to maintain the stupid thing. But that is a thing that is now out there in the wild. No longer is this something that was on the CES show floor. It is a real thing that is actually out there in London. The robot arm that can prep you lunch. And finally, we get to the last part of the last story of the day, the weirdest story of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, the most Twitter hack I have ever heard. I give you hacks that have taken over robot vacuums. And actually, I say a Twitter hack, but this is definitely a hack that's more in the 4chan realm of things. Where you see all of these robot vacuums, when they were hacked and had new programming injected into them, they just started yelling slurs. That's it. This might be the most childish thing I have ever heard happen on a massive scale. That all of these robot vacuums made by EcoVac were roaming around houses now and just shouting out random slurs. Like, all I can do is just like shake my head in disappointment. You know what though? It could have been worse. They could have gone ahead and injected code to go ahead and charge at, you know, full 110 volt instead of whatever voltage it actually uses, probably 24 volt. Go ahead and have a whole bunch of robot vacuums self-destruct that way. It wouldn't be that hard. They want to go ahead and be destructive. No, just instead, just shout out some slurs. If you ever wonder why some of your peers or your parents or anyone don't want to go ahead and embrace modern technology, this is why. Because no one wants to go ahead and just walk in to a robot vacuum calling you something offensive. It's just, you don't need that in your life. I'm not gonna lie. From a guy who knows about security, I'm not mad. I really am just disappointed. Folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Eagle Eyes on Tech. Thank you so much for listening, and I do encourage you to check out my other works, youtube.com/EagleFalcon and twitch.tv/EagleFalcon. Take care, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye. Here's the better question, though. Why does the robot vacuum have a speaker? Like, seriously, why? I think that's the real design flaw here. I'm trying to think. I don't think the few robot vacuums I worked with had speakers. If they ever just wanted to give you an error, they just went ahead and just spammed your frickin' notifications on your smartphone. It was really, really obnoxious. So why did these have speakers? You know what? This is actually the company's problem. This is all their fault that Gen Z pranksters wanted to go ahead and hack their stuff so it just does text-to-speech slurs. You know what, though? I think someone has the real answer. They wanted to go ahead and play the song of their people when it finished vacuuming, not unlike your washing machine. Also, why is it that modern washing machines will go ahead and play you a peaceful jingle when it's done, but the dryer will still give you a loud when it's done? Like, you got a question wrong on a quiz show or something.